Can you hear me now? Okay, this was a great start for the discussion today. And right now it's one way. There's two things that I'd like to accomplish today. And actually I sat and pondered for a little while and says, okay, what's my ideal? And I drove myself nuts for about an hour because I'm Libra and I kind of debate with myself pretty good. And what I'd like for you to walk away with. The first thing is there's a new term, so I want to make sure that you guys understand the contemporary word for consciousness or awareness. And that's woke. Anybody heard of woke? Are you woke? Okay. All right. So you learned one thing new already. So whenever you go anywhere, you always want to make sure you walk away with one thing, at least one thing. So you know what? I'm going to describe what woke is. And what is it that keeps us from being woke? And I'm going to use a holy word and a story. Because we live in stories and we remember things through stories. And that was a wonderful story about the Buddha. And it's very simple things that we can do to not only be mindful, to be conscious, to be woke. And so I'm going to talk about a few of those. The first thing is I sent this announcement for this talk today, and Reverend Charles Fillmore said, this is the most misunderstood book in the Bible, and that's Revelation. And it's misunderstood because it's written deliberately in symbols. There's another place where we every day experience symbols, and that's in our dreams. This is also a work written by John, and there's a debate on which John it was. Doesn't matter. It's a very profound work written in symbols to encourage you to reach for and to receive the meaning and the message that you're ready for. So part of it's to protect us, because sometimes, have y'all had a lesson that you weren't quite ready for? I've learned over the years to cry. And then I know I'm right in the heart of a lesson. Because a lot of times, often in my early childhood days, it wasn't real popular to cry. So when we feel that emotion in our heart, when we're in that place that we're learning the greatest lesson, it's the greatest pain, it is an emergence within us of what we need to know. And the symbolism is there not only to protect you. In the time that this work was written, John was in exile in Patmos. Am I saying that right? Patmos, whatever. Y'all know what I'm saying, because I'm going to start talking Southern. When I get in front of people, for some reason, my dialect sort of shifts. So between woke and this Southern accent, I hope you can stay attention. It's an apocalyptic message, which means there's a hidden truth in it. There's hidden truth in your dreams. There's hidden truth in this work. There's actually, the whole Bible is a journey in the evolution of consciousness. And I like to say that it's stories. It is a collection of stories, and there's different episodes, major episodes in the Old Testament, and the New Testament, and ultimately into the book of Revelation. And every story has a message. And as a matter of fact, in every story there's a heroine and there's a villain. Does anybody know who the villain is that runs through these stories, especially in the New Testament? It's the devil. And a lot of times we talk about that devil out here. The devil's in here. And the heroine that we're going to talk about today, and I'm not going to try and go through the whole book of Revelation. I know some of you got a little nervous when they give me the mic. They're not sure just how long I'm going to hold on to it, right? All right, so we're just going to stay with the story. We're going to jump into the middle of the episode in Revelation. And we're going to talk about this pregnant woman, this dragon, and this baby. Yeah. And just to give you some background, prepare you for the story, because we're skipping a lot. And all of these stories, again, are these stages of consciousness, this growth in consciousness. And we talk about these big levels of consciousness. There's the power that emerges in these levels of consciousness, and you float between them all the time. And the desire is always to be in the highest level of consciousness. I know I walked away from some conversations and, boy, I really wish I'd have just breathed a little bit more and kind of elevated myself and potentially elevating the consciousness. So the first level of consciousness and the power within that level of consciousness is reasoning. And it's in our conscious mind. And in our everyday life, our desire is to create new understanding. Reverend Cynthia, we take strolls around the lake and we talk about our experiences and the capacity to create understanding from those experiences. Who in here learns from every experience in your life? All right, look at that, look at that. I wish y'all could see from this side. This is great. Maybe I need to stop right here while I'm ahead. All right, the next level is what we call our subconscious mind. This place that we go when we dream at night. And that level, the power within that level is intuition. Anybody had an intuitive moment? Yeah, we've all had those. The phone rings and we know it's our mom. It's like, I'm not answering that. And we're glad. Well, at least for temporarily. Intuitiveness and connectedness. The true nature of reality is connectedness and our desire to connect. And within that level is truth. How many of you would like to know the truth in every moment, no matter who's talking it, including yourself, and be present and with that? And I know every one of you, including the ones that may not have your hand up, that's where you would like to be. The last and most important level is what we call superconsciousness. It is that divine purpose. Why am I here? We all have a divine purpose. And we want to be in harmony with that as well as all levels of mind, because we got a reason. Can't get away from it. It's nice when those intuitive moments come in, and it's great when we're directed by our divine plan. So in comes the villain. A little background on the villain in the Bible. He shows up in Revelation as the serpent. He's just a little bitty guy wanting to just, have a little fun with Eve. That pissed God off so bad that now we got to deliver babies in ways that I wish we had a different way to bring babies into the world. It's kind of painful. That devil, that snake, evolves as our consciousness gets greater and stronger and more disciplined. And what happens, it's the same as moving from infancy to adolescence to adult. As we get older, and we know better, of course, as we get older, the challenges get greater. And so does this representation of a distraction that emerges when we move into things that we're just quite not sure of. Everybody had a divine inspiration. There's something I'm going to do, and all of a sudden say, well, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I can't do that. So this doubt shows up. So the story is about what does it look like when I am moving towards a greater state of awareness. And I'm going to leave you with 3 things you can do. Now, I know it's always great to hear a bit about what the problem is. It's even greater to have some things you can practice throughout the week. And so I want to encourage you, stay tuned. Don't fall asleep, because you might miss those 3 things you're going to practice. So let's go into the story here. We have this cartoon. And I'm going to direct your attention to some of the elements which are spoken to as I read to you chapter 12 of Revelation. And the first verse starts with, a great sign was seen in heaven, and a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. Now, that's a pretty powerful message. And, those of us in here, a lot of us have been in that place of giving birth. And symbolically, the woman in every individual, whether they're in your dream or in these holy works, because every holy work has a message, a profound message, speaking to a birth of a child, a new idea. Now, what's that new idea? And that new idea is that recognition that I can hold a higher consciousness. Maybe I just can't hold on to it, but I have the capacity to be in harmony with my highest consciousness, my divine plan. And that indeed, the moon, the stars, and the sun represent their light. They represent awareness and the different levels of awareness that I brought your attention to earlier. The stars, and matter of fact, it's not just stars, it's a crown of stars. The stars represent consciousness, the capacity of the reason. It is that light in our everyday existence that's present and growing in strength in being completely present and capable of reasoning through situations to the point that we create understanding. That we can be awake and aware that those experiences that are happening, even though they really stink and sometimes they really hurt, and sometimes we get very angry, that we have the capacity to be present with it and learn from it. So thank you for the lead-in, Cynthia. The moon is another light. It's a more powerful light than the stars. And the moon represents that next level of consciousness that says, I can stand in my truth. I can be awake and aware and draw from an infinite pool of resources. An infinite pool of resources, including my dreams. And then there's the sun. And clothed in the sun, our clothing is a way of expressing. And I always agonize over what am I going to wear, especially if I'm going to stand in front of people. And then I forgot I need to hold the mic. Or I like the headset, but I don't have anything to hang it on. So we have these levels of consciousness that are available to us, as well as a new idea emerging. The more and more we're in harmony with who we really are, that authentic self that people like to talk about. And when we are woke in the moment, our life is different. Our conversations are different. And even if we're not as woke as we want to be, if we can walk away from it and say, wow, what did I just learn from that? So the first emergence in the first two verses is this awareness. And then there appears, okay, here comes the villain. There's another sign in heaven, and behold, there was a great fiery dragon, 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. Now, what in the heck is that? Well, we know who the dragon is, right? And he's gotten really big and really powerful. And the greater you desire to create, the greater the potential for resistance. And this bugger's got 7 heads, 10 horns, and crowns. Crown, again, is authority, the capacity to be in authority. So now this Bubba showed up to challenge us on, do you really want to do that? Because, you know, it's a lot more comfortable just to be retired and go by the beach and golf. That's what I tell myself in my worst moments. Boy, it'd be a lot easier if I just be retired and go to the beach and golf. Okay? Thing is you're going to get bored, because fulfillment comes when we reach for a higher purpose and when we overcome that. And these are just lessons, and they just get bigger. So you just want to stay with it. Stick with it. Go back to that wokeness. Now I'm making words up, okay? There's no wokeness word, but I'm making one up. All right, so he's got these 10 horns, and they're representing, these 10 horns are actually representing energy wheels, or anybody know about chakras? Okay? There is this capacity and this energy that you can draw from. And there's these levels of energy that are present and that you can go either way. I mean, there's a reason for the yin and the yang. Okay? It's to keep us awake. A minister, actually a priest in the Catholic Church, said that God put devil on this earth to keep us motivated, to keep us honest, to keep us conscious. Without tension, we can kind of get complacent. Anybody have that problem a few days of the week, a few hours of the day, a whole day, week, month? Yeah. So here he is challenging us again, and challenging us to energize our authority you have within you to draw from all the power that's available in all levels of consciousness and people around you. So then, here it comes, And his tail cut off a third of the stars in the heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stopped before the woman who was ready to deliver, and he was ready to devour her child as soon as it was born. Some of those doubts get so big it's going to consume that new idea that could make a difference not only in your own life, but in the lives of everyone around you. And there he is, ready to grab it. So, the devil is messing with our awareness, messing with our consciousness. And as a matter of fact, I heard consciousness defined as awareness with purpose. It's not enough just to be aware. Adding that purpose is the fuel. It's what keeps us connected with, and that big idea of being enlightened, that big idea of doing something great and wonderful in the world, we want to remain connected with that. And the only way we do that is to keep reminding ourselves, why am I doing this? Because as soon as we start to forget or it starts drifting off, all that doubt and fear and all that fun stuff shows up. And she brought forth the male child who was to shepherd all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God, to his throne. So the baby shows up, and the baby is that highest thought form that we can think of to shepherd all the nations. The nations are all of those qualities of ourselves with an iron rod. Not with that little wooden stick, because we can see the shepherd walking along with that little wooden stick, right? An iron rod doesn't break. It's truth. It's universal laws. That we are and have the capacity to direct those conscious thoughts in ways that are of the highest good for ourselves and others. All right, it's not over yet. The woman was fled into the wilderness, and she had a place prepared by God that she should feed her, that they should feed her there 1,200 and some days. And there was a war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought but did not prevail. Okay, so we got now Michael really didn't in the story carry the baby off, or they didn't say he carried the baby off. Hello, an angel, especially an archangel, as Michael says, you have the capacity to receive that inspiration, those messages from that highest self. And you know in those moments, you can have this light that shows up and says, I can do this, I can be there, I can make this happen. And to, again, be complete and whole, you're going to have to constantly fight fear, doubt, uncertainty, that dragon that's going to show up. So the dragon was cast out, and the old serpent, the ancient one called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, was cast down to earth, and his angels were cast out with him. What that's speaking to is I've placed the ego in its place. And I can do that when I breathe, pause in the moment. I can do that, and I'll talk about some of the 3 tools that I'd like for you to consider for this week, to be present and know the ego for who and what it is. The kids talk about these days to kill the ego. Symbolically, killing means change, force change. I suggest that it might be more effective to call mastering the ego so that you can direct it for what it's there to do, to motivate us. And so in the 10th verse it says, I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now, from this moment on, the deliverance and the power of the kingdom of our God and the power of Christ has been accomplished. For the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before God day and night, is cast down. So you kind of feel like, well, that's telling me it's done. Well, I'm going to stop at verse 10, but I can tell you if you want to go back and read on, it's not done. That bugger just won't quit. And we spend a lifetime with ourselves, with fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so what I want you to take away from this is you have the capacity to control and direct. And it's a matter of willingness and a commitment to that. So there's 3 things I would challenge you to do. in order to be a master of the whole self, all of you, to be woke. That first, there's an intention. Start each day with an intention. And this is entrainment, you know, when you're connected to people that you love, because it's the entrainment intention is to find the lesson in every experience, to ask what, not why the experience is happening. There's a woman, Tasha Urich, she has a TED Talk, Increase Your Self-Awareness. Did you know 80% of us say, we're aware? They have an awareness test. Oh, no. And it's pretty accurate because, you know, when these neurologists and scientists and psychiatrists, they really make sure, you know, only 10% of us are truly aware. And it's a big challenge to say I'm aware and present in every moment. That's my ideal. So start your day with an intention. It is my intention to sustain connection to the highest state of being and allow this state to be my guide in learning the lesson in every moment. Just say you intend to do that. It's powerful. It's like the little Buddha. You just stick it on the street and all of a sudden things get bigger and bigger and bigger. There is power in intention. And there's power in symbols of that intention. So that's the first thing I want you to do, to be woke. Second thing, affirmation. You know, if you don't set an intention to control yourself and everything within yourself, somebody outside of you is going to help you out. Okay? And sometimes it's not really, if you don't stand for something, somebody else is going to help you with what you should stand for. Take control of your life and say this affirmation. Whenever you're in that space, I am the master of my ego. And the last is what we do, and we encourage you to do, and you're inspired in this community every Sunday. Prayer and meditation. And I would ask you to bring your prayer and meditation forward with your breath. With the in-breath, say, God is. And with the out-breath, say, I am. Claim your divinity. Healing begins with a heartfelt desire. It's strengthened by soul urge, and it's guided by your divine light. If you're having a little trouble, look for support. Cynthia and I were talking this week, and the greatest source of support are the people that are around you that love you, and this community. It's here to inspire you. It's also here to support you. And when we seek support outside ourselves, when we feel our light's pretty dim and that devil's just wrestling us down. I had an intuitive report one time that said, this one's in a fight with the self. When you're in that fight, if you're losing, go get help. We are going to have a study group to go deeper in Revelation for those of you that are interested. Vivian's going to send a sign-up around. We're going to talk about the 7 churches. Revelation is a big book. It takes a long time to go through it. And the other thing is if you're curious about dream study and dream interpretation and using symbolism, we're also looking for people that, if you're interested in learning more about that, we will start a class and teach you some basic elements of dream study and dream interpretation. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. And I would like to say a very important blessing to you through the word namaste. I salute the divinity in you, and I hope that some of you, if not all of you, will practice those 3 little things over the next few weeks, and may you always be in harmony and aligned with who you really